Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, episode number 81, Tim Burnett, Solo Hunter. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is Corby Taylor, host of the Wild Game Hunting Podcast, and you're listening to another great episode of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Hello, fellow hunters. This is Carrie Zilka from the Wild World of Carrie Z podcast. You know, I don't always listen to other hunting podcasts, but when I do, I listen to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. Stay hunting, my friends.
Hi, this is Boyd Barnett with Moultrie Products and the Moultrie Total Game Management Podcast. You're listening to my second favorite podcast of all time, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Dusty Phillips, your co-host of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm here with the host, Jay Scott. Jay, how are you?
I'm doing good, buddy. What's happening?
Man, we're back from the ATA. What an experience. Life is good.
Life is good, and I cannot wait to share the content with you of the stuff we brought home and the stuff we're lined up with for the future podcast. Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
We got a great lineup. I tell you what, 2015, we are rocking the house.
Rocking the house. Great content, stuff you won't even believe. Man, speaking of stuff you won't even believe, we have one amazing guest this week.
Absolutely. You know, it's almost unbelievable, Jay, really.
It is. Now, I know that you love the shows that we do with the hunters that show extreme passion that really aren't necessarily connected to a TV show or a pro staff or anything like that. And we love those. Those are some of our favorite. But now and then we do need to go and explore the celebrity hunter. And this guy is as hot as they get.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's doing wonderful things, and he's doing it by himself.
It's crazy what he's doing. There's so much. I don't know how he does it by himself, but he does.
It's phenomenal footage. It's phenomenal editing. You know, the production of the show is awesome. And I cannot wait to talk with Tim Burnett of the Solo Hunter.
Solo Hunter. Tim Burnett, Solo Hunter. Unbelievable that we've got him on the show. He's doing some amazing stuff all by himself. And he shares some hunts with us, but he also gives us an extreme behind the scenes on how he had to go about getting a TV show on the air and some tips for how you might want to go about it and how difficult it is these days to get it done. And he talks about editing and talks about being the executive and talking to the networks. And he's his own production staff. He's his own videographer. He's his own hunter, his own star of the show. He does it all. And I don't know how he does it all, but it is quite an amazing story.
Yeah, you know, he takes care of everything. He runs the business as far as sponsors, the networks that his show airs on, everything. It's phenomenal.
It's amazing. And to think that he's been on Joe Rogan talking about hunting, he's now on our show talking about hunting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so let's get Tim on the phone.
Let's get Tim. Tim Burnett, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Couldn't be better, man. Couldn't be better. It's we're talking to you. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys, thinking of me and giving me a shout out. I really do. I've been listening to your podcast now for the last couple of months, I guess. I've got several of them and think it's one of the better ones out there.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. And I don't know if you want me to call you sir or not. I just that's just by habit.
You know, yeah, sir, it really doesn't fit me, but hey, it's whatever makes you comfortable. It doesn't make me squirm anyway.
All right, cool.
It seems like the longer I'm in this business, there's more people that I'm a sir to than actually younger than that, it seems like. But
That's excellent. It's just a term of respect, I guess, and we respect the hunter that hunts hard, and that's what you do. I appreciate that. We dig that. So you were on Joe Rogan not too long ago.
I was, yeah. Sure, I can't even remember. Oh, it was 9/11. That's the date to remember. So yeah, I was.
Yeah, how was that, hanging out with Joe?
It was good. It was good. The dude's intense. Like, of course, you go down there to L.A., you fly in and go to his studio there. And I think intentionally he has it set up to where his chair is taller than yours and looking down on you, so it makes him that much more of an imposing figure. You know, that and his demeanor. And I, just like I told him, I'll be honest, I had only listened to one or two of his podcasts before, and they were with Steven Ranella and then one with Remy. And so I had no idea really what his fan base was like or what to expect from the feedback of it. And knowing what I know now, I think I'd probably go into it a little bit more sheltered, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, he's had some good shows and had some hunters on his show, which is unusual. We don't usually see that kind of thing. Is Joe a hunter?
Yeah, he's just getting into hunting. I guess the last several years, Steven Ranella got him into it, and he's just really passionate about it. And that's one of the things that's really cool is like, you know, you can see he's so new to it. It's like my boy asking me these questions, you know, and that's what's really cool about it. And somebody from, you know, not within the industry or that didn't grow up with it, getting into the sport. I think he's doing a lot of good for the sport. I think it brings in a lot of negativity as far as, you know, his crowd, his fan base are not necessarily of our world. And so there's a lot of negativity being interjected into the social media and that kind of thing, but I think there's a lot of positive that comes from it. So.
Gotcha.
And that's okay though. You know, it may spread the word in his field, as far as his listeners and his followers, spread the word about the hunters that you know we're not bad people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys did you listen to Shocky's podcast?
I did, yeah. Listen to that.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Shocky brought up some good points that I think we all need to kind of bring up as often as we can. And he's somebody we'd like to talk to at some point. Actually, I'm trying to get Ava on the show. We get more requests for Ava than we do for Jim, but understandably so.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. For sure.
So, Tim, you got where are you hanging out right now? Where are you from?
From central Idaho, small town Moore, Idaho. Yeah, but right now I live in Reno, Nevada, which is where my wife is from. And so we've kind of, in the last 8 or 10 years or so, made this our home, you know. So
gotcha.
It's a nice place to be, close to Tahoe, close to Vegas, I suppose, and only 4.5 hours from the beach on the west coast. So it's pretty good mountain community. So I lived in Idaho until I was 27, 28. Just shortly after I got married was when my wife and I moved down here.
Gotcha. So. And now you're in Reno?
Yes. Yeah, Reno.
Gotcha. What drew you to Reno?
The pretty blonde, I guess. I met my wife at Idaho State in Pocatello, and she was from here. She was born and raised in Reno. And like I say, shortly after we got married, about 1.5 years after we were married, we kind of moved closer to home for her. So.
Fantastic. I want you to just kind of think of a good deer hunting story, if you could. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to hear your best deer hunting story. But before we do that, I'd like to get to know you a little better, so everybody's listening.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll give you a precursor here. I'm kind of a crap storyteller, so just to forewarn you right there, I'm not the best at storytelling, but I'll think of one anyway.
See, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, me neither. I don't believe that either.
Right? You don't have your.
I like to fake it with the cameras, but.
I think everybody's got a story to tell, and they can become good storytellers. We actually do pretty good to get the story out. So we'll guide you. You know, we'll guide you along.
Good.
Not a problem. So you're living in Nevada, and you're married. You have some kids.
Yep.
And tell us how you got drawn to hunting way back.
Hunting's always been a part of my life, I guess, since I was a kid. My dad, to go way back to when I was 12, 13 years old, my dad was not a hunter. He went hunting one time, and I think he had a real terrible experience with it, and so he never did introduce us to it. But we got lucky, and there was a guy that moved to our little town in Moore, and he was working out at the engineering laboratory, and he was an ex-military guy. And he was just an avid archer and mostly into traditional. So he made his own arrows and strings and bows, traditional bows. Yeah. And my dad was installing carpet in his basement one day, and my brothers and I went over there. I think I was 12, and we were just enamored by his collection of arrow making supplies and his dead animals on the wall, and just it was mostly the traditional archery that just intrigued us so much. And then he had this huge video library, VHS tapes of like Larry D. Jones and Wayne Carlton and all these hunting videos, and we just went through those like crazy. And I remember at that time I told my brothers, I was like, man, when I grow up, I want to make hunting videos for a living, and so that's really kind of what started my passion for hunting,
Interesting. So you knew back then that you wanted to be making hunting videos and trying to make a living at it.
I did. I remember my brothers and my dad was a school teacher, and back then he had access to some video cameras, and even then he'd bring them home, and we're in junior high, and just kids running around, filming each other, trying to hunt and that kind of thing. And I very strongly remember watching those hunting videos, and most particularly, a velvet mule deer hunt that Larry D. Jones was on in Nevada. And I remember saying, I want to do that for a living. That's exactly what I want to do when I grow up. And of course, as a kid, you don't have any idea of how to make it happen.
Right.
But, eventually over time it happened.
That's very cool. So how long did it take you from the time you had the concept to the time that you actually started making your own videos?
Started filming a bunch of stuff in college, but it wasn't until after I had gotten married and I actually met a guy that was starting a TV show, and he actually has 2 TV shows on Sportsman's Channel now. And I met him through a mutual friend, and we hunted together, went on one bear hunt in Idaho together, and just really hit it off. And so we actually, went into partnership together and started the show, and I actually moved to Oklahoma for a year. And then after living there for a while, I missed the West and decided to come back and was just kind of making my own videos, and it just kind of took off from there. So that was about 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
When I first started that.
And most of your stuff, it sounds like you've been all over the world from what I can tell, but do you do most of your stuff out West?
Yeah, being a Western guy. I whitetail hunt every year. I like to go. I haven't had until this year a place out in Oklahoma that I would go to. But I love whitetail hunting. But, growing up out here in the West, it's all about mule deer and elk. And of course, if I ever get lucky enough to draw a sheep or a goat tag, that'd be kind of a bonus.
Gotcha. That's very cool. I'd love to hear some stories about mule deer hunting. So one of the things we really haven't covered on this show, it's usually whitetail, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We certainly love the whitetail, but we like to mix it up now and then. So I don't know if you have a good whitetail story to tell us. What's the most memorable mule deer hunt you've ever been on?
Probably the one that just happened to me just a couple of weeks ago was a good memorable one. But it's probably ones with my younger brother when we actually didn't even kill anything in September. Because growing up in Idaho, the weather and the mountains are so, if you were to see where I grew up, the valley floor is 4,500 to 5,000 feet, and then the mountains are 12,000 feet. And so you have this huge elevation change, and they just go straight up. And so the country was really, really rugged, and I just grew to love that. And so when my brothers and I go on backpacking trips and backcountry, to me, those are the best hunting trips of all, even when they're not successful,
Gotcha.
It's all about the memories made, not the animals that were harvested. Great stories and great times last forever.
Man, that's something that I try to do with solo hunters, really show everybody that. And I tell everybody all the time, it's I am not the greatest hunter. By far am I even remotely that good of a hunter. It's just the adventures that I go on is really what I love, and the hunting is just kind of that excuse to get out there, and that I guess it's the avenue, the reason to be there. But it's not all about just hunting. It's just living life, conquering everything that's out there that you can.
Gotcha. So let's talk about a hunt that you've been on although the most memorable one is the one with your brother. Can you walk us through, how do you prepare for a mule deer hunt? It's one of the things that we don't get a lot around in the East, obviously.
Right.
But it's different. It's a different style of hunting. It's a different terrain. It's a different animal. How do you even start?
The thing about it is, mule deer, just like whitetail, is there's different times of year to hunt them and different stages that make it easier or more fun or better. And for me, it's here in Nevada, it's all about August. If I can bow hunt for mule deer in August, that's the ultimate time because they're so visible. They're in bachelor herds. So when you find them, there's a good chance you're going to be able to see every deer that's on the mountain. And it's just a nice, relaxing, time of the year where you don't even necessarily have to have a tent. You can just go out and bivvy on the side of the mountain and just enjoy the hunt, and the deer are so visible, and as the season progresses, it gets a lot more difficult because they change, so my preparation for early season is just get the spotting scope out, glass from a distance and try to find a group of bucks and just, be casual about it. You really can't get aggressive, because if you bump a buck in the velvet, you may not see him again, until the rut. And so if you're cautiously aggressive, you can really have a good chance of killing an awesome deer. And I've had a lot of success on velvet mule deer with a bow just because of the time of year. It's just, we're lucky to be able to hunt them in the velvet out here. And I think whitetail would be very similar. If you could hunt them in the soybean fields when they're out bachelor herded up and everything, that'd be stinking awesome.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Let me ask, what kind of terrain? You say you're out with a spotting scope. What kind of terrain are you in there when you're looking at the spotting scope?
Just mountains, big mountains. You guys are from the east, so you guys have got some big mountains there and everything. So picture those mountains just covered in sagebrush and not big woods, so you can see a lot of country. And that's how it is out here, in the majority of Nevada where I bow hunt for mule deer. It's like a high desert. So you got sagebrush covered mountains. So you're spending a lot of time from the bottom just before you even go hiking, just driving the roads and hiking up to the little foothills and glassing the mountain tops up around the springs and up into the bitter brush areas and the sagebrush areas, just looking for your bucks.
Right.
And once you find them, then you load your pack and go.
Right. Is that more or less rolling mountains, or mountains here are more or less they're high, tall, rocky, no good for climbing hardly. So I'm assuming mountains there are kind of a rolling mountain.
No, it just depends on the country. It depends. Nevada's got some of the most brutal mountain ranges and terrain that you'll ever find, and Idaho's the same way. But then there's a lot of places where you can access with the truck that are rolling hills. The deer I killed last year on this season's episode, that very first episode, that was really easy hunting. Rolling hills, easy to walk. But it's not always the case. It just depends. Usually I'm hunting pretty big mountains, pretty big.
Right, gotcha. So when you get ready to go out to the mountains, what kind of camouflage are you using?
Right now I'm using, I've been wearing Under Armour clothing for the last 3 or 4 years, but they came out with their new Barren Lands camo pattern that's exclusive to their clothing, and that's what I've used all of last year and then all of this year. And I found it's super, super effective in the West.
Awesome. I'm figuring that you're using some kind of Under Armour footwear too for the traveling.
I do. I have, I work with Under Armour on the clothing side, the footwear, and on their gloves.
Is there any
kind of fun?
Right. Is there any particular boot that you wear out there?
I kind of bounce back and forth. I have a pair that I've worn for the last 2 years that were a prototype boot it was modeled off of their Speed Freak, but it was changed a little bit, and I don't think it ever made it to market. But I went through 2 seasons with that boot and just loved the heck out of them. And then now, in the later season, I've gone to their new Ridge Reaper Elevation boot. It's kind of a heavier, more mountain boot. But, I really like the Speed Freak style of a boot, lightweight, just because I have pretty tough feet to begin with and don't have any ankle problems or anything, so I like a lighter weight, more of a tennis shoe type of a boot.
Right, yeah. Obviously traveling long distances and got to have something comfortable for the feet. So everything you hunt with is Under Armour.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of guys use the brow tine boots and just swear by them. They really love them, but I haven't actually even worn a pair of brow tines. I love those other prototype ones so much that's all I use. And that's one of the cool things about being associated with Under Armour is, when I started working with them, I was able to use a lot of their clothing before it even hit the market. So for an entire year, we were wearing their clothes, their new Barren pattern, or Ridge Reaper, before it even hit the market. And so that's kind of fun to get to be able to use stuff before they even put it out.
Yeah, that's a unique situation for you because it's a promotional thing because you're able to hunt and record your hunts wearing something that's not been really seen on the market yet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm wearing a pair of boots now, and I just absolutely love it. It's their Speed Fit. I think it's kind of a running boot. It's made out of real high density neoprene, lightweight neoprene, and I just love the heck out of them. So I'm hoping, we've got meetings with them at ATA. I'm hoping that they tell me that they're going to bring that boot to market because it's my favorite shoe of all time. I'd wear it every day every day if I could.
Right, gotcha. Awesome. What I'm gonna take you out to the mountains there where you're at on a mule deer hunt. I want to know how the hunt goes down. Can you take us to the day that you took this hunt, a particular hunt that you can think of, and where you actually killed a mule deer, and walk us through from the time you got up till the time that you made the kill?
Yeah, so when I go mule deer hunting here in Nevada, I'll just walk you through Nevada because that one's easy.
Awesome.
Not everything's close to home, but the average scenario is once I know I've got a tag, I'm going to go and scout that area 2 or 3 times before the season even starts. So I spend 4 or 5, 6 days hunting for the deer before the season even opens. So in the last 4 years, I've had a chance to kill a deer on opening day every time, and the person might look at that and say, well, you only get to hunt one day. And no, not really. Actually, I was hunting for weeks ahead of time before you actually go in and make a kill. But the average scenario would be just opening up Google Earth, looking at the area. If it's an area I've been in before, I'll obviously reference from my experiences in the past. But if it's a new area that I've never been into, first thing is Google Earth, and then Onyx maps, hunting GPS maps, so that I can see where the private land is versus the public and all that kind of thing.
Right. Real quick, how much do you think that the Google Maps help you be more successful?
Between Google Earth and Onyx Maps, those are my top 2 scouting tools right there. Those are the very first things that I go to. One, Onyx Maps is because I need to know where there's public or where the private land is, if any, so that you're not trespassing or any of that kind of thing.
Right.
And then that gives you a good layout of the top look of it. And then I go to Google Earth so that I can get a good 3D look at what those mountains are like, so that you can, that way you pick out the benches, you find out where the optimal feeding areas are going to be versus the springs and all that kind of thing. And I would say the majority of my scouting is done on the computer. Before I even head north or head to the mountains, I kind of know where I want to go based off of what I see on the computer.
Excellent. So that's kind of a pre-flight before the season even kicks in. Another question is, when you apply for a mule deer and say you get it, is it a region type thing, or how do they do that?
Yeah, so they break the state up into 2 areas or units, zones, depending on the state is what they classify it as. And so you have, like here in Nevada, you have 5 choices. So you pick those areas where, to have trophy potential or where you've hunted before or whatever you want. And you put in your 5 choices. And then once you draw that, you can pull up the map and you see where your hunt boundaries are. So I guess it would be comparable to a county boundary, of some of the states. It's just broken up into mountain ranges, where most of the areas have a good combination of mountain range, lowlands, water, and just geographical area to where you can hunt, which is nice because it limits you. It takes your mind away from the rest of the states. When you have a tag that's statewide, you're thinking, where can I go throughout the state? I like it when you've got one unit to focus on. You might have 50 square miles or 100 square miles that you can focus on.
Right. It seems like you could really pinpoint where you need to be with only having limited access.
Yeah. And then here in the high desert, it all comes down to water. It's where you can find water is where you're going to find the game.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, proceed on. Let's hear some more about this hunt.
So I'll have all of my predetermined locations, and some of that is so that I can know where I want to hunt. Another part of that is before I leave the house, I have a printed out map for my wife that has plan A, plan B, plan C, from where I'm going to be, so that she knows exactly where I'm going to be at. I send a copy of that to my brother, so he knows exactly where I'm going to be, just for safety reasons. And then I go, I'll drive to a certain area, and typically I'll have my truck and park somewhere, and I'll take my 4-wheeler up the back roads as far as I can, and then I'll grab my pack and head up the mountain. My style is I like to get on the mountain and stay on the mountain. A lot of guys like to come back to a base camp or, come back to a camp trailer or a hotel or whatever. And I'm kind of fat and lazy in my old age. I want to just get everything I can get in my backpack, get up to the top, and stay there until I have to come down.
I'm with you. Less walking is better.
I want to know, with you being a solo hunter, tell us what's all in your pack when you head in.
First aid kit, satellite phone. I've got some basic survival stuff depending on where I'm at. Some areas are. You're relatively close to population, and there's other hunters out there too. So it's very rare that you're more than 10 or 15 or 20 miles from somebody. But because I hunt during the week, I'm usually out there alone a lot more often than I would be if I were going to be out there on a weekend,
Right.
And then I've got, a sleeping bag, bivvy usually, or a tent, depending on the time of year. Obviously a bunch of camera gear, some lenses and cameras and backup batteries. And,
all right, let's get into that real quick. A little more detail on your camera setups.
Okay.
We see a lot of, if you watch the Solo Hunter, you see a lot of you're carrying a camera, and I'm going into this as a listener wanting to know a question. What are you actually carrying when you're videoing? What is it? Some kind of bracket or a camera arm? Or tell us a little bit about that.
So I have my tripod and I have the camera on the tripod. That's it. So
no kidding.
Because my thing is like I'm out there hunting, obviously, but I don't have to have my weapon in my hand all the time. So my weapon is usually strapped to my backpack, and I have my tripod with the camera on it all the time. And I personally film with a DSLR. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not, but I've really grown to like the DSLR because I can change out the lenses. I can go anywhere from 1,000mm lens on down to an 18mm. It's really, really easy. And so I just keep that main camera on the tripod all the time, and then I have kind of a GoPro fashioned off of the handle part of it, of the fluid head, I guess. I don't even know what the heck to call it. People ask me all the time, where did you get all those attachments and everything? I'm like, man, I just strap it to the handle. I mean, there's really nothing fancy to what I use.
Duct tape.
A lot of times it's electrician's tape, honestly.
See? I know.
That's awesome.
It's duct tape. That's how I strap it on there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, it's not, you don't always have to have the best equipment, the high, all these gizmos and gadgets. You just confuse the hell out of yourself and you make it miserable. I mean, so if you just keep it simple and narrow everything down to what you need, and I've got a purpose when I go out there and film. I know I'm filming for Solo Hunter, for the TV show. So I know exactly ahead of time what I need to film for. If a guy doesn't really know what he's filming for and he's just out there just to film and he says, I just want to film my hunt, I'd hate to be in that position because you really don't have a plan and you don't know what you're doing. But if you have a plan ahead of time, you're going to know, okay, I'm going to film, I'm going to talk to the camera, say what I'm doing, and then I'm going to give myself 8 to 10 reference shots of what I just said. And then I'm going to give myself 5 shots of me getting to that area. And then I'm going to put the camera in the bag and I'm going to go hunt, And so I have it all kind of planned out. And of course, by doing it for several years, I've made it a lot easier. But, you just have to have that purpose and that reason for doing it so that everything's not just random, But,
right. You talk that you got a GoPro, and what's your main camera?
My main camera right now is the Panasonic GH4. It's a 4K DSLR camera.
Panasonic GH4, is that what you said there?
Yeah, GH4. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Before I was using the Canon T4i, and I really love that camera.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. We just like to get a little more information available to somebody that's maybe trying to do a solo hunt like yourself.
Yeah, so Campbell Cameras sells a Solo Hunter package, which is, it has a regular camcorder video camera style camera, which is what I would recommend for a guy getting into it. But as you get more advanced, you want to have more creativity and be able to do some time lapse, and take photos and get creative with your depth of field and all that kind of thing. Then the DSLR is a nice little step up.
Right. Excellent. So we got our camera set up. We got our bag, our pack bag set up. Let's talk about how's the day start up on the mountain?
I always like to get up early, Of course, if you're sleeping on the mountain, you don't have to get up 2 hours before daylight to get to where you want to be in the daylight. You just step out of the tent or roll out of your bivvy, and a lot of times I just pull out my spotting scope and start glassing right there while I'm in my sleeping bag, and then you just try to find the animals. You enjoy the sunrise and the cool weather. And really, there's nothing out there to really distract you from nature. I mean, you're in it. When you're by yourself, you are nature. I mean, there's nothing but you, your mind, and what you're seeing, and that's. Unless you've got cell service, you're just part of the dirt out there. And so that's what I like, is you just wake up and you're just it. I mean, you're nature.
You're in it. You're in it from the minute you open your eyes. That's very cool. So,
and you'll have those twitches. Your hand will be twitching because you want to check your email on your phone and everything. But then you'll quickly realize this isn't going to work.
Right. Do you usually lose cell coverage a lot where you're hunting?
Yeah, rarely do I have cell coverage. So I actually pack a satellite phone everywhere I go because I call my wife and kids at least once a day, usually twice a day. But, occasionally you'll have self-service, and that's always nice because you can keep up on work and everything. Because I handle all the business side of Solo Hunter too. So
Gotcha.
You want to be connected to some extent, but it's not always possible.
Right. There's good things and bad things about it. So you wake up in the morning. Let's talk about an actual hunt that you went on. So you go through all these steps. You talk about the preparation. You found an animal. Now what? What do you do after you find one?
You get in the early season. You put them to bed. You wait for them to bed down, and then you hope that they're in a spot where you can stop them and get the wind in your favor, and then you go after them. When you're hunting with the cameras, you've got to be, you got to be a little bit more casual about it. You can't get really super aggressive because you almost, to get good footage and to make sure you get the kill on camera, you almost need to be in an ambush point where they're coming to you. So it's hard to get too aggressive and try to hunt and film at the same time. I mean, you really hunt differently than you would without the cameras. And I think it makes me a better hunter. So what I'll typically do is watch the deer until they bed down, and then I'll, get into position as tight as I can. Usually it's 40 to 60 yards is about as close as I want to get because of this, the sixth sense factor, So if I can get 60 yards and then post up and get my camera and everything set up, I hope the deer stands and moves in his bed or feeds out in my direction. That's really kind of how I play it.
Gotcha. And what do you look for? Like what indicators are you, or what are you waiting for after you get there? Just waiting for the right moment, the right time, and hopefully you're set up in the right wind direction, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'll always wait till late morning or midday to let the wind settle, because here in the West, thermals are everything. I mean, you can have a case where the wind is blowing one direction, but up where the deer is bedded, it's blowing in a different direction just because of the way that the ridges line out and everything. I mean, they usually bed somewhere where the wind is kind of swirling into them so that they can capture the scent from the entire mountainside. So you got to get those winds constant, so it's pretty much going to be settled there for the day. Because if you get too aggressive in the mornings and the thermals haven't settled and the wind hasn't decided what it's going to do for the day, then you have a good chance of them winding you.
Gotcha. So do you wait until later in the morning to actually set up on this kind of thing, just till the thermals settle down?
I do. I mean, obviously every situation is different. If I feel like I can get in there and beat a deer to his bed, and get in between in the morning, I'll definitely do that. But that's rare. Usually, that early season, they're only going to be on their feet for an hour or so after daylight, and then they're headed to their beds. Occasionally they'll get up more often, but you just kind of have to play each scenario out different. I mean, you can't just assume that everything's going to be the same every time. You have to really watch what they're doing, watch their mannerism is. In case in point, this year I found 2 bucks that I hunted 3 years ago, and I found those same 2 bucks this year and put them to bed. Was expecting them to be in their bed, and so I proceeded to make my move, which because of the wind I had to go like 3 miles around and then up about 3,000 feet elevation and then come back down. And I kept kind of on this ridge where I could keep watching them, and it's a good thing because they were up eating all day. They'd lay down for 10 or 15 minutes, and they'd get up and feed to a different spot. And that was going on all day long, and I was just blown away that these deer in 90-degree weather were moving all day.
Right.
And
that's
so
fascinating. Interesting.
Yeah, nothing's the same. And then there's other cases where, you watch a deer bed before the sun's even up, and that sucker's there until dark, that night.
Right.
So.
Right. Do you find that you have to get to a vantage point? You said you had to walk 3.5 miles just to make this thing happen. Do you have to get to that vantage point so you can keep an eye on them the whole time? And of course, in this country, that's more possible. You couldn't do that in the East.
Right. Yeah, in the East, spot and stock, putting something to bed, that's just not going to happen, because you don't have the open country. And that's the beauty of hunting in August, is they're in the velvet. So, they're not in the timber. They like to stay out because their antlers are still a little bit tender. So that's why I love to hunt them in August. That's once they shed their velvet and the testosterone levels start to rise a little bit and they start getting ticked off at each other, they're gonna, and they get any hunting pressure at all, they're in the woods. And honestly, I usually take October off because it's just miserable to hunt deer in October. So I'll only hunt for mule deer in August and November. Any other time, it's really dang tough, so.
Interesting. So October, you just forget about it for the most part. And
yeah, October for everything. Yeah, I took all of October off this year. I didn't go hunting once.
That's fascinating. It's like exactly the opposite of hunting in the East. Like, I can't wait for October. That's some of the best hunting you can imagine. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're whitetail hunting, late October can be, October can be really good, but for the deer, man, they get hunting fresh where they head to the timber, and it's just tough. I mean, not that it can't happen, and not that I haven't killed stuff in October. It's just I'm hunting all year round, and so when I plan on, because a lot of it too is I have to travel long distances, and so it's like I need to optimize my time because I have family life and I have hunting life,
sure.
and if I can have that good balance, and so I kind of plan my season out and pinpoint those weeks that are going to give me the highest possible percentage of success. And if it's not that week, I'm not hunting, just because I'm either going to burn myself out, or B, I'm going to spend too much time away from my family when percentages aren't with me. So I always plan for the high percentage times where I can.
Gotcha. So August is hot in Nevada. You take off October completely in Nevada, and then does November get better?
Yeah, so usually I've killed my deer in August. In November, I'll head to Montana, or this year I hunted Colorado for the first time. And, you're able to hit the rut in November, and then I went back to Idaho in early December and caught the tail end of the rut, So that's really kind of my plan is when you draw a tag in Nevada, it's for a specific time. So if you draw that archery tag, you're hunting from August 8th, 9th, or 10th range, whenever that is, through like September 9th. Once that season's over, it's over. You can't, the season's closed. So you move on to the next state. So I plan everything out as August is my Nevada, September's my Idaho, Montana. October is stay home and watch my kid play basketball or whatever. And then November, it's wherever I can get during the rut.
Gotcha. So, and this is an annual thing. Every year it's a similar kind of structure.
Yeah, it can change from time to time. I drew a moose tag in Alaska for September, so I didn't hunt elk in September. I spent my time hunting for moose. So it just depends on the tags you draw, and each year, I kind of caught the elk bug. So September is pretty much absorbed with elk these
sure.
days, and mule deer. I'm just obsessed with mule deer. So August and November. This year I didn't hunt whitetail. I just hunted for mule deer in November. Just because that's when the rut was, and I just was obsessed with trying to kill a couple of big mule deer.
Right. So go ahead, Dustin.
How many tags do you put in for a year?
I don't put in for a ton. I'll put in for Montana, Idaho, Nevada, and that's pretty much it. Every once in a while I'll put in for Alaska or something, but I don't play the game where I put in, in every state. I just pick a couple and put in for them, which is kind of dumb in a way. Guys, a lot of guys will put in for tags in Arizona and New Mexico and everywhere to try to build up points and everything. And I just haven't got into that game, I don't know. There's plenty of good hunting in a lot of different states. I don't have to be in the prime trophy units to be happy. I can go up to Idaho behind my parents' house and kill a 5x5 bull and be stoked every year, I don't have to have that prime unit.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're great stories right there. Is another thing, you get to go back home and you get to harvest a nice animal and making memories.
Right.
That's cool. So you came up with this concept of the solo hunter, and it's no film crews is the premise.
Correct.
And you're by yourself all the time, for the most part, correct?
Yeah. There's occasionally where I'll go on a group hunt or something, or hunt with my brothers, but, what you see on the TV show, there's nobody there.
Yeah. And how'd you decide to do it just as solo? That's going to take some practice, I would think, with the camera and trying to figure that whole thing out.
It mainly came down to it that once I started filming for that other TV show, I kind of got a knack for the cameras, and I wanted, when I left there, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to try to stay in the TV business or not. And so I was still filming my hunts, but I didn't have, the funds or the ability to hire a cameraman. So I was just filming my own hunts.
Yeah.
And when Solo Hunter came around, I was actually producing another show on Sportsman Channel for some clients out of Missouri, and they lost their funding, so they backed out. And this was 2010. Right at the end of the third quarter, which would be September time, they said, we're done. Well, I had the contract with Sportsman Channel through the end of the year. And so I either had to continue to run their show and pay for it, even though they weren't paying me, or I had to run a show because I had to pay for it. I had to pay for that airtime because I was under contract.
Right.
So I went to Sportsman Channel. I said, look, I'm in a bind here. These guys don't have any cash. They're done. They pulled out. All I have is a bunch of hunts that I've done of my own, and I've got this show idea called Solo Hunter that I'm not ready to launch it yet, but I've got 6 episodes that I can do this year, and we'll just see how it goes. And so they said, great. They cut my rate down, in half basically because of the hardship.
Yep.
I cut together that first episode of Solo Hunter and sent it to him, and it aired the next week. And from that point, I called all my buddies anybody that I knew. I called Campbell Cameras. I called, Dan Evans, a trophy taker. I called all these different people that I had worked with in the past or knew or was using their products. And basically, I didn't beg, but I begged. I mean, I was like, I basically was just honest, and open. And I said, hey, this is a situation I'm in. I need to scrape together $35,000 to cover my network costs because I don't have $35,000. I was kind of in a bind.
Sure.
And I'll be damned if I didn't get it. Everybody came on board to support me. And then once the show went to air, I think they were glad they did. And from that point on, sponsors came on board, and it really kind of took off.
It is kind of amazing what happens when you focus on something. It just kind of it happens when you start to put your energy into it.
Well, the crap thing about it was because it was so late and I hadn't intended to do a TV show yet, is I missed hunting season. So actually season 2, Solo Hunter was moving forward because the network wanted it, sponsors wanted it. It had to go. And at that point, I knew that I had something special, but I didn't have any footage for season 2. So I called all my buddies and anybody that I knew and scraped together all this hunting footage. And the majority of it wasn't even solo. So season 2 was really not what I wanted. It was a hunting show. It wasn't Solo Hunter. Gotcha. And it wasn't until season 3 and 4 that I was able to actually get enough footage and to refine the format with Remy and everything. And then now it's pretty well dialed.
Gotcha. Now, I understand you like to store your milk in your cabinets and not your refrigerator. Is that correct?
Yep.
I'm poking around on your Facebook page. Facebook is just great for this kind of stuff. So
that's a good indicator of. I guess that's a creative mind right there. That's what that is. Yeah, but somebody that's always thinking of something else.
You must have had a lot on your mind that day.
I don't know what was going on that day, but the same day, I think I found my 2-year-old in the dishwasher. So,
hey, it happens to the best of us. Absolutely. So, being out west, do you do any antelope hunting as well?
Yeah, I've killed a few antelope. I've killed 2 with my bow, and it's fun. It's fun. It's not my favorite, but it's fun.
Okay, all right. So it's something to pass the time, but not as challenging as the muleys.
It can be just as challenging, if not more so. But they're fun. I want to go out and smash one with the rifle. I've never killed an antelope with a gun. I've just shot them with my bow, and it's something I want to do. A lot of what I look at when I look at my season, what I want to do is I look at the shows that I've done in the past, or ratings. I'm a big numbers guy, so I'm always in touch with the ad agencies and different things. And I look at what rates well, and antelope hunts don't typically rate really well. And so if I'm going to spend time hunting in August, I'm going after mule deer rather than antelope.
Gotcha. Do you have a background in television production in general, or is this something you just kind of fell into?
No, I just kind of fell into it. After I left that show, after I left Oklahoma, and because we had a hired producer out there, when we moved back to Idaho, kind of in the midterm, I actually bought the computer, bought Final Cut Pro, and just spent all of my time just learning how to edit. I'm not a technical guy, so if my computer goes down, I got to call my buddies. I shouldn't say hate. I really don't understand technology, and I don't understand how things work, cloud, and whatever else. So I had to self-teach myself how to edit and everything. And so everything that I've done, there's no schooling behind the production side, and really I have a semester of college under my belt, and everything else is all self-taught.
Gotcha. It's fascinating. So let's go back to those 2 mule deer that you spotted, and you tracked for 3.5 miles. Did you end up shooting one of those bucks?
So I did. I didn't shoot one. I got into position, and you'll see that on this season's episode. I did end up killing a deer, but I didn't kill those deer, which is kind of frustrating because I got in position on the very first day. I'd spent my time, and everything was going just right. They were feeding towards me, and I was farting around with the camera, and the one buck kind of saw me, but he didn't, and so they kind of got a little bit antsy, and I was able to get a shot, but the limb of my bow smashed me in the thigh because I was kind of laying down on my side. and caused the arrow to go way off and everything. But I did get a shot at him that day, and I got a shot at him 3 days later, or 2 days later. I got another shot at him, but I didn't shoot, but I got within the distance before they took off. And then a few days later, I was able to kill a deer. So
fantastic. So, what were the final moments of actually the hunt? And if you want to wait for the show to come out, that's cool, no problem.
No, it's no big deal. So the last day of the hunt, I mean, I had found a bunch of bucks, and I was really kind of ticked off myself because I buggered those 2 bucks out, and I hadn't seen them for 2 days. I knew that they were gone because I bumped those deer 3 times. There was no reason they should have been around there that much because we're talking 6-7-year-old deer. I mean, they were definitely mature bucks. And, so I was just found these little bucks, didn't really want to mess with them. And so I was done hunting. I was headed back to my camp. I had a little spike camp up on top of one of the ridges, and I was just walking back to my camp, and, some does popped up in front of me, and I was filming them, just whatever. And I noticed there was a little buck in there. I'm like, oh crap, if this deer walks out and, gives me a shot, I'm going to shoot that sucker.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, my bow was strapped to my backpack. There was there was no way I was going to kill a deer. That was my mentality. So I told myself, I'm like, if I get a chance, I'll kill it. Sure enough, he walked around the tree, and so I took off my backpack, got my bow and everything ready, and then he trotted off, and I was like, oh, good, I didn't want to shoot him anyway. And so I grabbed my backpack and walked forward another 30 feet, and there he was standing. So he kind of got the camera into position, the lighting and everything was perfect. He walked around the tree, and I shot him at 63 yards, And when you can get it on camera, it's fun. And I looked at it, I was like, man, why did I just shoot a little 2-point? But I was more excited at shooting that deer because it shouldn't have happened, and I got it on film. I was like, man, this is awesome. And he was good eating. And so that's the thing. Is I know I can be back there on that mountain next year chasing big bucks. So for me to kill a 2-point, it's not that big of a deal. It's not like I burned, 13 years worth of points to draw that tag. I can get that tag again next year. So that's where I don't mind, coming off the mountain with a little buck, and I don't mind coming off the mountain empty-handed because I know I'm going to be right back in there next year, and I'm fortunate that I'll probably be on another mountain the week after, chasing deer in a different state. So I love killing the little deer just as much as the big deer.
Gotcha.
Almost.
It's nice when they kind of stand there and pose for the shot and the camera.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy eating venison? You a venison chef, part-time kind of thing? What do you do with all your meat?
Honestly, I give all the deer meat away usually. I mean, I'll keep some of it, but I have some friends here that just love deer meat, and they make the salami and everything. I'm not really good at cooking wild game. I'm kind of just a red meat guy where I'll take a slab, put it on the grill, let it hit 125 degrees, and then I eat it. I don't really get into the gourmet part of it as much. I'm doing more and more of that as I get older, but I just like meat. I just like to keep it simple and not put a whole lot of preparation into it. So, but this year I did get a meat grinder for Christmas, and
nice.
So I'm going to build myself a smoker and make some sausage out of all the meat I've got in my freezer.
That's awesome, man. I got a smoker this year too. Actually, I was grinding up some burger and had some ground burgers for dinner tonight, and it was quite rewarding, I have to say. It's just nice to know that you're eating the meat that you're grinding up and putting some stuff in the smoker, and just trying to. I made a whole batch of venison jerky for Dusty and I to enjoy at ATA, and I'd be happy to share some with you as well.
Awesome.
Heck yeah, man. No, I love eating the wild game. Obviously, elk, and that's my favorite. Deer meat. This deer I shot 2 weeks ago, holy cow. He's not an ounce of fat on his body. He's probably an 8-year-old buck. I mean, he is just he's pretty brutal to choke down, but I'm eating. So.
Tell me about Remy. Who is he, and how does he relate to the solo hunter?
Sure. So Remy was one of those guys that kind of came to me in season 2, where originally I had a segment of the show called the Solo Hunter Challenge, and it was where viewers could submit footage, and we actually aired some of that footage on the show for the first few seasons. And Remy submitted footage for season 2, and then he submitted some for season 3, and at that point, at the kind of the tail end of season 3, I was looking to dial in the solo format a lot more, and so I went to everybody that had been contributing footage, all my friends and everything. Said, look, this is what I want to do. I want it to be one man on the mountain. I don't want any more cameraman or anything. It's just, I just want it to be solo, like what you see now. And Remy was the one that kind of stepped up to the plate and said, I'm all about it. I want to do it. So we did that for season 3, and then it got to the point where I just asked him to be my co-host, because he's got a really good talent with the cameras, and so everybody else was kind of struggling with it, and some of the guys didn't like that idea, and they thought I was kind of a jerk for going that route, and that's fine. It's their choice, but it's my business, and you have to do something that's different than what other TV shows are doing. So it ended up to where it was just Remy and I, and it was really kind of a smart business decision. Everything has taken off and done well, and Remy's career is exploding. He's got his own show that's coming out in July, and we're just really kind of growing together.
That's awesome. Now, do you have another season coming out, Solo Hunter?
Yep, we filmed for season 6. We've got, I think, 11 episodes filmed. So now I start the production process. I do all the editing and everything also. And so I'm starting the editing process. But season 6 is in the can pretty much. We've got the contracts all done with network, and just now finalizing contracts with sponsors. And that's kind of what we do at ATA and SHOT Show is finalize all the negotiations, and then then we get everything signed and move forward.
Gotcha. So there's a whole method behind all this stuff. There's the hunting, which you love, which you've turned a passion into a profession, which is great. And then you've got the filming that you have to do and which is different than just going out and hunting, as you said. And then you've got the actual editing, which I hate, by the way. I don't know if you hate it as much as I do, but it's just one of those things. It's a necessary evil that you have to do, and we try to make our shows sound good, and you're trying to make things look great.
Yeah, I love editing, man. I get into it. I love it. I hate editing somebody else's footage, but I love editing mine. And my footage and Remy's footage is about the same. We both do things very similar. I love to edit.
Oh, no kidding. All right, cool. I'll start sending you my stuff. You can do my stuff too.
All right, yeah, sure. $150, $150 an hour. I'm your man.
$150 an hour. Perfect. Dusty, you'll be sending him the checks, correct?
That's correct.
Excellent. So as far as you've been with the Sportsman's Channel, and now you're going to you've been on the Outdoor Channel for the last couple seasons. Is that where you're going to this following season?
Yep, Outdoor Channel. Yeah, I was on Sportsman Channel for the first 2 seasons, and then it's been Outdoor Channel ever since. Okay. And they treat me great. I think our show's doing well on there, and it's where I want to be right now.
So you have to play, as a business, you have to play a bit of executive here with some executives at the TV channel too, right?
Everybody thinks that it's about hunting. It's not. Hunting is kind of it's the tool. It's the excuse. Being able to have a TV show and being in this business, unless you are just a hired talent, it's all about business, and it's not so much about just going out and hunting.
Right.
So that fortunately, I like that part of it as well, and it really comes down to, can you sell yourself to these companies and prove to them that you're worth them spending their advertising dollar on? And can you establish relationships, and can you, be trustworthy and loyal and be somebody that can follow through with what you say you're going to do? And it's really hard to produce a TV show. Anybody can cut together a kick butt 3 to 4 minute teaser or premiere. But can you do that for 22 minutes? And then can you do that 13 times in 1 year? And can you do that for 5 years? And it takes a lot. It takes a lot more than just going out and being a big bad hunter and being able to kill something and get it on camera.
How long are your shows typically? 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30 minutes total with the commercials. So actual content is $22.50. So by the time you take out, your brought to you buys and segment bumps and that kind of thing, you're down to 20 minutes roughly.
Gotcha. And how much filming time do you usually put into that to get it squeezed into a 22-minute segment?
We have on average probably, I would say, 3.5 to 4 hours worth of footage usually to cut down, which is good because, if somebody were to see my rough footage, they wouldn't think I was that great of a cameraman or producer or whatever. It's because I can pull from that 4 hours and take the best 20 minutes out of that 4 hours and put it in that episode.
Right.
So
you must be good at it because you're selling it to TV networks, and you must be a pretty good negotiator. Because you got to go in, you got to talk the talk and walk the walk. So that's some good stuff.
Yeah, I found you just got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be honest with them. You got to be straightforward. And like I say, if if you can't do something, don't say you can. You know, I mean, you just got to be able to back it up, and then it helps to have something unique. You know, I mean, that was kind of fortunate that nobody had done it before, and you know, got lucky with the format, with the solo hunter genre, because I think a lot of guys are like it. You know, a lot of guys are doing it.
Right. It's fascinating to me, Tim, is that you're not only solo hunting, but you're kind of solo producing and solo negotiating and solo running the business and solo finding sponsors. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you know, you're your own man. You're your own person. You're living your life, and I don't have a boss per se. I feel like I have 10 or 12 bosses, you know, or partners to work with the sponsors. But, you know, my personality is that I don't want to have to count on somebody for my livelihood or for my survival. You know, it's kind of the self-reliance part of it. And that's kind of how I grew up. You know, I mean, if you were hungry, you went and got some food out of the cupboard. You didn't go to mom and wait for dinner or whatever. You did things. And I feel so lucky to be able to have a business that, you know, I'm the constant. I know I can count on what I do, and I don't have to worry about what somebody else is or isn't doing. But the downside of it is I'm the business. So if I'm not there mentally and or if I'm not there physically, or if I fail at something, then the whole business fails, you know, so.
Yeah. That is the hard part, is that it's all you. But it is nice because it is all you. There's some pros and cons to each scenario, no question about it. So, well,
as it grows, I'm getting more and more people to help me with certain things, with some of the marketing and that. I mean, it's getting bigger to the point where I need those types of things. You know, I got somebody helping me with the shipping now of all of my products and that kind of stuff. And so it's just, as you grow, you need it.
Gotcha. So I got two questions for you. One is, and these are tip questions. If you had one tip to give to somebody that wanted to start their TV show and negotiate with the big outdoor channels and outdoor networks and find sponsors, what would you say to them?
That's a tough one. I get that question, if not daily, couple times a week for sure.
Sure.
And I don't answer them all the time, just because every situation is so different. You know, I mean, everybody has the drive, or they say they have the drive, but the reality of it is it's more difficult now to get a hunting television show than it ever has been. You know, and I wouldn't have said that 3 or 4 years ago. I would have said 3 or 4 years ago it's the best time to get in than ever before. You know, but it's tough. You really got to have something different, and unfortunately, different's been done so many different ways that I don't know if there is any different anymore. You know, it's tough. When you talk to the networks, there are people waiting in line with very well produced shows with plenty of backing that there's just no room for on the network, you know. Right. And there's kind of a waiting list for third and fourth quarter in a lot of ways.
Right.
And you look at productions, and they're so much better now than they get so good every year to where there's so many shows that are produced so good. I don't know, man. I don't know if there is an easy answer, and people don't like to hear that. But there is no right or wrong way to do it. You know,
right? Well, that's true. I mean, there's only so many outdoor channels, and there's outdoor TV channels, and I don't see any new ones coming out anytime soon. So you got to kind of stand in line.
No, you got Pursuit Channel and the Hunt Channel, I guess. I mean, there's avenues for your show. I mean,
sure.
If a guy really wants to have a TV show, he's got to come up with his show, his product. That's basically what it is. And whether he's his product or his group of buddies or whatever, you come up with a product, you come up with a distribution plan, and then you have a marketing plan and a business plan. If you can come up with all those things and it pencils out at the end of the day, you know, it's got to be. You got to get out of it what you want. You know, if your goal is to make a living at it, then you got to structure your business plan and your distribution plan and your marketing plan so that you can make a living at it. If you're going at it as though you just want to do it for fun and cover some costs, you're going to fail, you know, because you're going to have that lackluster attitude towards it where it's like, well, if I don't pick a sponsor, or if we don't get these costs covered, that's okay, because I just want to have the show just for fun. Then you're going to fail. If you go at it as you know, hungry, it has to happen, that's how it was for me. It had to happen. If you're hungry and you've got the right product and you package it the right way and have the right distribution plan, then you can make it happen.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. So if think Dusty has one last question, and it's long. It's his question basically. I wanted to know about the production side. But Dusty, you got a question?
His token question.
His token question. This is his question. Yes.
This is the one question that you allow him, right?
I do. I allow him a few, but this is the one question I'd like Dusty to ask.
What's your number one hunting tip?
Hunting tip would be passive aggressiveness, I guess. So, I mean, a lot of guys get real aggressive. I'm very, very passive. Very passive when it's time to get aggressive, you get aggressive. So I would say patience, I suppose. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, patience with everything. If you can think things through and do it the right way the first time. I mean, when I look at my track record from mule deer in Nevada, and you know, the very first stalk I've done in the last 4 years, I've had a shot at a big buck, and it's not because I'm that good. It's just because I've been that cautious, and I plan it out to where I will hike 3 or 4 miles if I have to make it right. I'm not going to take a shortcut, you know, because I think that I can sneak in there. You're going to do it right the first time, you know. So I would say that's where I call it passive aggressive.
I like that. That's a
great tip. Yeah, absolutely.
Tip. So, how would we find you, Tim? On TV, online, offline? What's the best way to check you out?
Man, if you just Google solo hunter, you can't miss it. And it's been around long enough now that all the you know, searchability keywords and everything, solo hunter, it's all there. If you want it specifically on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, it's just Solo Hunter TV.
Okay.
At any of those, you know, but it's hard to miss. The website is thesolohunter.com.
Okay, gotcha. And how about if we wanted to watch you on TV?
Outdoor Channel last week was the last week of the season. So Solo Hunter airs third and fourth quarter, which is basically July 1st through the week of Christmas. And then it's off air for 6 months during the production time. Then it starts again in July. So our air time starting in July is Friday night, 7 Eastern. And then fourth quarter, like in the end of September-ish range, it's going to go to Saturday nights, 7 Eastern.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, I can tell you that you're popular. You must be popular enough because I've tried to friend you on Facebook, and it says you're out of Facebook territory there.
I just blocked you. No.
Oh, okay. No, that's hey.
Yeah, I feel pretty honored then.
I know. I see Dusty. He's in your friend, and I'm like, what the heck?
Dusty snuck in last week. I saw his friend on there, and I was like, oh, I've got one in there. I can sneak him in, you know, because every once in a while somebody drops off.
I see Sean Davies is in there and Dusty Phillips, but there's no Jay Scott. What the?
I have a confession to make. I don't go to my personal page ever. It's always the Solo Hunter page because that's, you know, and Facebook is such a weird beast now that, you know, nobody sees what you're doing anymore anyway, which is kind of sad because we spent all this time and energy building the following, and now unless you want to pay for the promotion, nobody sees it, and fewer people see it, and so it's frustrating. But
well, they went public. They had to do something, I guess.
I got another thing, Jay. I was delighted the other day. I flipped up my Instagram, and the Solo Hunter had requested me to follow.
Yes, I did.
Really?
Are you a private user on Instagram? Is that what it was?
Yeah, sure am.
Yeah. So I actually love Instagram more than any of them. I mean, just because it's like that instant gratification. It's like you see a picture, cool, like it, not like it, and you can just move on. You don't have to read through all the BS. And the mistake I made with Facebook was I accepted everybody's friendship because I didn't know if I met them at a trade show a week ago or not. And so I just accepted everyone. Right. For now, the news feed is so jumbled with people I have no idea who they are. That Instagram, I mean, I have 200 or 300 people, so I follow 400 people, and of them, there's probably 20 active. And so I get to see what I want to see, you know, and I get to interact with those that I want to interact with. And that's what I love about Instagram, you know, it's not cluttered like Facebook is.
Interesting. That's something I'll have to check out. I'm not up to date on Instagram. I don't really know anything about it. But
I just
Instagram's awesome.
I just actually joined, so it's pretty cool. I'm learning. It's a new adventure for me, and you know, when you see the Solo Hunter requesting to follow you, Instagram must mean something.
Whatever. Somebody was bored.
Hey, thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. That was excellent. That was a great response.
I'm just another guy, you know. I like to see pictures and stuff just like everybody else. You know, that's kind of the funny thing is like I don't realize that there's fans of Solo Hunter out there, or of me personally, or whatever. I don't really realize that, because honestly, 90% of my time is spent in my little cubicle in my office. And, I've always been just that poor bugger with a dirty truck that's just out hunting just like everybody else. And so the concept of popularity or stardom or fans and all that kind of thing just doesn't register with me, because the hunting industry is so stinking small. Anybody that thinks there's something is just stupid. Right. Really, I don't know.
When I cleared the okay for the Solo Hunter to follow me, I was kind of bored myself.
Yeah.
Oh boy!
Just ride the train, right?
Well, Tim, I got to tell you, this has been a great interview, and thanks for spilling your guts and telling us about hunting out west and how you got Solo Hunters off the ground and how you keep it going. It's really a great behind the scenes, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. No,
thank you. I mean, I'll jump at any opportunity I can and any platform to promote the brand and what I'm working so hard to achieve. And hope everybody can see and tell that hunting is awesome, and that is a big part of what drives me and everything. But really, my passion is behind the whole industry and the whole business side of it, and development and marketing, and just the relationships with both sponsors and with I guess the quote unquote fans and different people that have the same common interests as I do. And that's really where my passion is, aside from the hunting. So I appreciate the opportunity you guys gave me, honestly.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Hopefully it was as fun as being on Rogan. Sorry we couldn't fly you out to our studios. We're not quite that big yet, but someday.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this very much, very much.
Cool, man.
Awesome, Tim. Thanks for joining us.
Tim, we'll see you at the ATA.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks again. How'd you like that, Dusty?
Wow. Hats off to Tim for what all he's got going on and what all he's accomplished and what all he's got to come in the future. I'm
in awe at how much he gets done by himself. Phenomenal.
That's a guy right there that has the drive to succeed.
He must have read the 4-Hour Workweek or something, because he gets a lot done in the same amount of time that we all stumble about getting stuff done. Just awesome guy.
Yeah, there's no. The drive in his voice tells you that he's going to be successful.
Oh, yeah. He's got a plan. He's got it mapped out. He knows where he wants to go, and he's just going to keep going. And I have no doubt that we're going to see much more to come from Tim Burnett.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, thank you very much for joining us on the Big Buck Registry podcast. Man, it was a great story to hear some of the behind the scenes of what it takes to be your own outfit.
Yeah. In that business, I mean, that's not an easy business to get picked up. Well, any TV business, I don't think is easy to get picked up, but he's doing it successfully, and he's up for a couple of Golden Moose Awards again. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. Really is. Hats off to you, Tim.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim, for joining us on the Big Buck podcast. Dusty, got any Chubby Tines tip of the week?
I do have a Chubby Tines tip of the week.
Man, you're not running out of those yet?
I'm not running out of them. I've probably got a Rolodex of tips of the week.
All right.
It's one of the things where a lot of controversy comes when you talk about baiting deer.
Yeah. It's a hot button.
It is a hot button, and I'm going to say this. If you can legally bait deer, do it.
Really? Interesting. Why do you say that?
Because I'm going to tell you it ups your odds by 50%.
Really? That much, huh?
Yeah, especially late season cold weather.
Interesting.
So that's my tip of the week. If you can bait legally, I'm saying go for it.
A lot of the snow's melted here in New Hampshire, which is odd for this time of year. It had that really warm spell. And all of a sudden, I can see all the greenery that came from my food plot that came from the Horny Buck Seed Company. And as the snow melted, guess what started showing up on my game camera?
The deer.
Deer. Not only deer, but bucks. Last night was the first time the snow had basically melted completely. I had 3 deer, all bucks, that I'd never seen before. What are they doing? They're eating in my food plot. It's been all smushed down by the snow, but they're still in there. It's crazy.
That's Horny Buck Seed Company, right?
Horny Buck Seed Company.
Nice.
I had a button buck. I had a small 8-pointer. And then there was another one in the distance that looked to be a bigger 8-pointer, but I couldn't quite make it out on the game cam because he was so far down, but I could see his eyes and see the antlers moving through the brush. It's like, that's insane. So they must be zoning in on this stuff late season. And if it was a late season, season's over. But if it was late season, they'd be coming to this food crop right now.
Nice. That's awesome. Plays a big role in success late season as a food source.
Yeah, I just wish the season was still going on, but it is what it is. But yeah, I was amazed. Like just last night, I had 3 different bucks. Amazing.
Don't hate, appreciate. I'm in until February 1st.
You're the man. Keep going. I know you saw a lot of dough again.
I've
seen dough.
Oh, it seems like I'm the slickhead whisperer here lately.
Yep. At some point, you're going to see what you want. So, and I know you're going to keep going. You're going to keep.
Yeah,
going.
I'm gonna grind it out. That's the tip. A few weeks back, grind it out. It's late season. It's time to, right now. If they don't shed their antlers, you got a chance at harvesting a mature buck. Tis the season. Christmas came and gone, and big whitetails late season is the season's in now. Tis the season.
Yep. Well, good luck to you, brother. Love the tip of the week. Tim Burnett, thanks again. Just awesome to hear you tell your story about how you got into the whole gig. And, man, hopefully we can talk to you again soon. So I think that's it, Dusty. I think that's a wrap. How can we find you offline and online?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Facebook.com/Antler Life. Facebook.com/Dusty Hunt Neck. Jay, how can people reach out to you?
Well, there's a bunch of places. First, I'd like to invite you to join us on iTunes and give us a review there. Listen to our whole catalog, all 70-plus issues of the Big Buck Registry podcast. I did have an announcement this week. We actually were able to change the category on Facebook from media publishing to podcast. Actually, we're able to create our own category, and Facebook recognized podcast the last couple weeks, and we are officially a podcast in the podcast category on Facebook. Not that that's a big deal, but just thought I'd put that out there. You can reach us on Facebook at facebook.com/Big Buck Registry, twitter.com/Big Buck Registry, youtube.com/Big Buck Registry. You can reach us at Stitcher, which is bigbuckregistry.com/Stitcher. Shoot us an email with some feedback at bigbuckregistry.com. Give us a call at 724-613-2825. What did I miss, Dusty? Anything?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole lot of big buck. Everywhere, big buck.
Big buck, everywhere, big buck. Well, excellent, man. I think that's a wrap. And
yeah, awesome. Shout out to all the people that tuned in with us. And, man, we can't wait to get another show on the air for you.
Cannot wait. Well, I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.